The snow was falling in slow, delicate spirals the night Lewis realized that even the warmest lights of Christmas couldn't. It melted the cold that had settled inside her chest. She sat in her wheelchair at the edge of Pinecrest Park's holiday market, her gloved hands trembling as she watched families laugh under strings of golden bulbs. She had hoped tonight would be different. Hoped maybe, just maybe, the universe would give her one soft moment to hold on to. But instead, she had been rejected. Again. Not for anything she had said, not for anything she had done, but simply because she could no longer walk. The man who was supposed to be her Christmas blind date had taken one look at her chair, forced a painful smile, mumbled an excuse, and walked away through the glowing crowd as if her presence dimmed the lights around him. And in that moment, as the cold air cut into her lungs and tears blurred the shimmering world, Emma felt smaller than she ever had in her 24 years of life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that remind us what humanity can look like at its best, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps these heart-touching stories reach more people who need them. Emma had not always been this fragile. There was a time when she ran through these same holiday markets as a teenager, weaving between booths, laughing with friends, her caramel hair bouncing behind her like a ribbon of sunlight. But that was before the accident, before the icy road, and the screaming tires and the endless nights in the hospital listening to machines breathe for her. Doctors said she was lucky to live. Sometimes she wondered if they understood how complicated a word lucky could feel. Her legs never moved again. Her spine never healed the way they hoped. For years, she tried to rebuild her life, but every holiday season seemed to highlight all she had lost. Tonight, she had pushed herself to try something new, a blind date arranged by her church friend Melissa, who swore the man was kind, patient, and excited to meet her. Emma had believed her. She had even put on her warmest red sweater, curled her hair, and applied a soft shade of lipstick she hadn't worn in years. She wanted to feel pretty. She wanted to feel like she mattered. But when he approached and saw her chair, his expression had shifted instantly, and the rejection had cut deep. It always did. She tried not to blame him, but a tiny crack formed inside her heart, widening with each passing second. Now she sat alone among the glowing booths and drifting music of Christmas carols, feeling invisible despite the thousands of lights sparkling around her. A group of teenagers rushed by without noticing her. Couples held hands around her chair as if she were an obstacle to walk around. She sighed softly, her breath forming a small cloud in the air. She thought of going home, but even that felt heavy. Her apartment was quiet, and quiet was the last thing she wanted tonight. She wheeled herself toward the large Christmas tree in the center of the market, its branches shimmering with ornaments and tiny snowflakes caught in its needles. People were taking pictures in front of it, capturing moments they would treasure long after the season ended. Emma stopped a few feet away watching them, wishing she had someone to take a picture with, wishing she had someone who didn't care about her wheelchair, someone who saw her, not her limitations. She didn't notice the little girl at first. She only felt a soft tug on the sleeve of her sweater, gentle but deliberate, like a snowflake choosing where to land. Emma blinked and looked down. A small girl with curly blonde hair and big blue eyes was staring up at her. She couldn't have been more than 5 or 6. She wore a pink coat with star-shaped buttons and held a peppermint, candy cane in one mitten. For a moment, Emma was too startled to speak. The child smiled slowly, shyly, and then rested her tiny hand on Emma's knee. The world seemed to pause. Emma looked around to see if the girl's parents were panicking, but no one was rushing over. People passed by, lost in their own cheerful worlds. The little girl gazed at her again, her eyes filled with a soft innocence that pierced straight through Emma's pain, as though she could see her heart even when adults only saw her chair. Then came the words that would change everything. "Can I hug you?" The question was so unexpected, so pure that Emma felt her throat tighten. No pity, no hesitation. Just a child wanting to give kindness freely. Emma nodded slowly, unable to speak as tears pressed silently behind her eyes. The little girl stepped closer and wrapped her arms around Emma's torso, her small face pressing against Emma's chest. She hugged with all the sincerity of a child who didn't know what rejection felt like, who saw beauty where others saw inconvenience. Emma felt something warm crack open inside her, like the first glow of sunrise after a long, dark winter. Before she could fully understand what was happening, a man hurried over, tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair dusted with snow. He looked breathless and apologetic as he crouched beside them. He introduced himself as Daniel Hayes, the girl's father, and apologized for his daughter running off. But when he saw Emma's emotional expression and the little girl's peaceful smile, his voice softened. He thanked Emma for being kind to his daughter, explaining that she liked hugging people who looked sad because she said hugs fixed things. Emma let out a fragile laugh, wiping away a tear. She told him the hug helped more than the little girl could ever know. Daniel stood and looked at Emma in a way that surprised her. He didn't look uncomfortable. He didn't look pitying. He simply looked human, present, gentle, and it had been so long since anyone looked at her that way. He asked if she was all right, and although this story avoids dialogue formatting, Emma found herself sharing pieces of her evening, her blind date, the rejection, the way she always felt invisible. She didn't know why she was telling him these things. Maybe it was because he listened without judgment, without impatience, and with a warmth that made the cold night feel just a little less bitter. Daniel explained that he understood loneliness, too. His wife had passed away 3 years ago, and holidays had been hard for him and his daughter, Lily. Tonight, he had brought Lily to the market hoping to spark some joy in her, and instead, she had found Emma and somehow sensed exactly what Emma needed. They spent the next hour wandering through the market together. Daniel walked beside her chair, never rushing, never making her feel like she was slowing him down. Lily held Emma's hand most of the time, showing her ornaments and pointing out the reindeer decorations. They shared hot chocolate from a booth, steam curling into the frosty air. Emma found herself laughing, really laughing for the first time in months. Her chest loosened, her shoulders relaxed, and she felt warmth spreading through her heart. That had nothing to do with the cocoa. As the night deepened, the music grew softer and the market began to empty. Daniel asked if Emma would like to see the small nativity display that Pinecrest Park put up each year. Emma agreed, and he led her gently through the snowy paths until they reached a quiet corner lit by lanterns. The nativity scene glowed with soft yellow light, the figures carved from wood and dressed in handcrafted fabrics. It was peaceful, serene, a reminder of hope in seasons of darkness. Emma closed her eyes briefly, breathing in the moment. She realized how drastically her evening had changed. She had come expecting disappointment, and instead had found something she didn't even know she was searching for: connection. Daniel thanked her for spending time with them, and she could tell he meant it. When Lily hugged her again before leaving, Emma felt tears rise once more. But this time, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of healing. She watched them walk away through the falling snow, feeling the warmth of something new settling inside her. She didn't know what the future held. She didn't know if this night was simply a kind encounter, or the beginning of something deeper. But for the first time in a long time, she believed that life still had surprises worth waiting for, and she wasn't invisible. Not tonight. Weeks passed, and Emma received a message from Daniel. He asked how she was doing and invited her to a small neighborhood gathering he and Lily were attending. She hesitated, old fears, whispering that good things didn't last for people like her, but she accepted. And slowly, as winter melted into early spring, Daniel and Lily became constants in her life. They visited her, invited her to parks, shared stories and laughter, and included her in moments that restored her belief in connection. Daniel respected her independence, admired her perseverance, and never once treated her as fragile. When he looked at her, he didn't see a broken girl. He saw a woman with strength, carved from pain and hope forged through survival. Emma began to see herself that way, too. Months later, when she sat by Lily's side at a 4th of July picnic, watching fireworks burst across the sky, she realized the little girl's hug had been more than a gesture. It had been the beginning of her life opening again, like a flower thawing in spring. By Christmas of the following year, Emma was no longer spending holidays alone. The girl who once sat crying under the bright market lights now held Lily close as they decorated a tree together. Daniel stood nearby, hanging an ornament shaped like a snowflake, a reminder of the night they met. And when he turned and looked at Emma with gentle affection warming his eyes, she felt grateful for every painful moment that had led her here. Sometimes healing doesn't arrive in grand gestures or perfect timing. Sometimes it arrives quietly, in the small arms of a little girl who simply asks, "Can I hug you?"